Today we're going to start solving equations with variables on both sides. When we do this, we need to think about variables as family members. They should be together. This means before solving, all the variables need to be on the same side. We should move our variables using the inverse operations of addition and subtraction, depending on if the variables are positive or negative. So we're going to try this first example two ways to show that what happens when we move the variable each direction. So first we're going to solve by putting the variable on the left side. So I'm going to rewrite my equation, 3x plus 9 equals 2x plus 15. So I want to get on the left side where the 3x already is, so I need to move the 2x. Since 2x is positive, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. So x plus 9 equals 15. Now that the x is on one side, we need to get the number on the other side. So we're going to move the 9 over by subtracting 9 from both sides. And we get x equals 6. Now let's see what happens when we move the variable to the right side. So we have 3x plus 9 equals 2x plus 15. The variable on the right side is 2x. So this time 3x we're going to subtract from both sides. And we get 9 equals negative x plus 15. So to get x by itself, we have to subtract 15. Negative 6 equals negative x. Remember, when there's a negative, we have to divide by negative 1. So x equals 6. So which side should we move the variable to? Does it matter? It does not matter. There is one that makes the problem easier though. So notice in the first one, we moved the smaller variable over, so we have one less step, whereas when we move the bigger variable over, we had to divide by negative 1. So does one way make it easier? Yes, by moving the smaller variable. So when we go through this video, we're going to practice moving the smaller variable, but remember it doesn't matter because you're going to get the same answer. You might just have to do one extra step. So solve the following problems. Number 1, 9x equals 3x minus 18. So 9x is the bigger x, so we want to move the other x to that side. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. And we get 6x equals negative 18. So remember, 6x is multiplying. The inverse operation is to divide by 6. So we get x equals negative 3. In number 2, we have negative 7 plus 14 equals negative 3x plus or minus 26. So the smallest variable in this case is negative 7. So we're going to add 7x to both sides. We always want to use the opposite sign. So 14 equals 4x minus 26. Next step, I'm going to add 26 to both sides so I can get the x by itself. So 14 plus 26 is 40, which is equal to 4x. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 4, and x equals 10. Number 3, we have x plus 83 equals negative 10x minus 5. So my smaller variable here is negative 10. So I'm going to add 10x to both sides. 11x plus 83 equals negative 5. Then to get x by itself, I'm going to subtract 83. 11x equals negative 88. And then divide both sides by 11. X is equal to negative 8. Number 4 looks a little bit trickier with fractions, but it's the same idea. So if you're not sure, remember that 2/3 is about 0.67 and 4/3 is about 1.33. So 2/3 is smaller, so we're going to subtract 2/3 x from both sides because it's the smaller fraction. And we're subtracting because it was positive. Make sure when you're adding and subtracting your x's or any variable, you're writing the variable with that number. So both of them have the same denominator of 3. So 4 minus 2 gets us 2/3 x minus 8, and that's equal to 2. The next step then would be to add 8 to both sides. 10 equals 2/3 x. Remember, to get rid of a fraction, you want to multiply by the reciprocal, which means we are flipping our fraction. So our fraction is now times 3 over 2. If it helps you, you can put 10 over 1. When multiplying fractions, remember we multiply the numerator together, so 3 times 10 is 30, and the denominator. And then in this case, we can reduce our fraction to get 15. You can also use a calculator. So if you weren't sure, you could also use a calculator. 10 times 3 divided by 2, which also gets us 15. Number 5, before I can start moving my variable over, I notice that there's parentheses that I need to get rid of. So I'm going to distribute the 6 into both terms in the parentheses. 2x minus 6 equals 6x plus 42. So 2x is a smaller term, so we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. Negative 6 equals 4x plus 42. My next step is to subtract 42 from both sides. Negative 48 equals 4x, and then divide by 4 on both sides. So negative 12 is equal to x. Number 6, I have parentheses again, so I'm going to distribute the 2. 8x minus 10 equals negative 6x plus 46. So my next step is to add 6x to both sides because 6x was the smaller variable. 14x minus 10 equals 46. Our next step is to add 10 to both sides. So we get 14x equals 56. And then we're going to divide both sides by 14. And x equals 4. Number 7, there's a double set of parentheses. So before I do anything, I have to distribute twice. 1 in each set of parentheses. So I get 5w minus 10 equals 8w plus 8. So my first step is to subtract 5w because it's the smaller variable. Negative 10 equals 3w plus 8. Then we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. Negative 18 equals 3w. And divide both sides by 3. So w is equal to negative 6. In number 8, we have decimals, but we're still doing the same process. So notice that I have two x terms on the left. I need to combine those together first. So 1.6 plus 2.3. Remember, when you're combining variables on the same side, you use the same signs that they have. So we're adding, and we should get 3.9x minus 9.7 equals 5x plus 6.8. So 3.9x is smaller, so we're going to subtract that from both sides. We get negative 9.7 equals 1.1x plus 6.8. We're going to subtract 6.8 from both sides. 1.1x is equal to negative 16.5. And then we're going to divide by 1.1. So x is equal to negative 15. Let's try two more examples. So in number 9, I need to distribute because there's a parentheses. Be careful with what you're distributing because this negative is right next to the parentheses. So that's what we should be distributing. So we get 5x minus 2x minus 10 equals 8x minus 105. Now, these x terms are like terms, so we're going to combine them together. 3x minus 10 equals 8x minus 105. 3x is my smaller variable, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Negative 10 equals 5x minus 105. Add 105 to both sides. So negative 10 plus 105 is 95 equals 5x. Divide by 5 on both sides, and x equals 19. One more example. So in number 10, on the left side, I need to distribute to get rid of the parentheses. So I'm going to distribute 3. On the right side, I have two x terms that are combined together. So we get 9x minus 15, because I distributed and multiplied by 3. Here, when I'm combining, I'm using the sign they have. So 5x plus 2x is 7x minus 15. 7x is my smaller variable, so I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. 2x minus 15 equals negative 15. And I'm going to add 15 to both sides. 2x equals 0. Don't freak out when you get a variable equal to 0. Remember, that's a possibility. X can equal 0, so we're just going to divide by 2, and x stays as equal to 0.